In this episode, I'm going to do a little bit of an education on gender and sexuality. I think there's a lot of terminology out there these days that makes it a little more complex than it used to be. Certainly when I was growing up, there weren't a lot of differences between humans. You were either a girl or a boy, and you were either straight or eventually we started to talk about being gay. But beyond that, there really wasn't much to talk about. So I've learned quite a bit, and I thought it'd be a good opportunity to help educate you. Now, I am recording this both in audio and video with a couple of graphics that'll be on my YouTube channel. They're simple graphics, but I think they really help explain the concept. So the first thing that I'm going to tell you is that your identity, your expression, your gender, and your sexual orientation are not always the same thing. So they may not be equal, and that is something that we need to get our arms around. What do each of these words mean? This diagram complements of a website called itspronouncedmetrosexual.com, and I will put a link to it in the show notes. This is the genderbread person. The genderbread person was developed by someone at an organization called itspronouncedmetrosexual.com. I will put a link to it in the show notes. This diagram shows the difference between sex expression, sexual attraction, and sexual identity. And I'll go into a little more detail in the next slide, but basically what you need to understand is that they are all different. Your sex, which we now prefer calling gender because it makes it much easier to differentiate between that, and your sexual expression, how you express yourself physically, who you're attracted to, and then who you identify as. And so those are all different aspects of you as a human. Now, until recently, or in the last few years, we really only thought about female, male, straight, gay, and perhaps bisexual. Your gender identity is what you were assigned at birth. So if you were born with female genitalia, with a vulva, you would have been assigned female. If you were born with male genitalia, you would have been assigned the male gender. Now, if you were born with both genitalia, in a lot of cases, doctors encouraged parents to make a decision as to what gender they think their child should be. And that has caused an enormous amount of mental health issues for people who have grown up thinking that they were one gender because that is the genitalia they had, but in fact feeling like they were another gender. If you were born with both genitalia or on some spectrum of XX and XY, your gender identity would be intersex. There's a female, there's male, and there is intersex, which is on some level of the spectrum of your gender. Your gender expression is how you present yourself to the world. My gender identity is female, and I express to the world as a female. In the social construct of what a woman should look like, this is what I look like. Whether I'm too fat, too thin, too pink, too white, that's a matter of opinion. But I express as what society would assume a woman would express as. However, if I felt more masculine in my body, I may decide to dress more in the male presentation. I may wear less pink. I may wear more masculine-looking clothes. I may decide that I want to be known as a man, but I have female genitalia. So your expression is different than your gender identity. The sex you were assigned at birth is your gender identity, or maybe you identify on some spectrum of female and male. And so when you hear someone referred to as they, it could very well be that one, they're intersex. In other words, they were born with parts of the female and parts of the male in there. Sometimes people don't get the full load of male hormones, and so they may feel somewhere on the spectrum. And in fact, many people have some male hormone or male DNA in them, but it may never manifest in any way, or you may never feel that you need to express in any way other than female. However, you may be one of those people who has both chromosomes and is somewhere on the spectrum and want to identify as they. And again, that's where that plural comes in, which was very hard for me to understand. But now that I understand that some people may decide to identify, and some people decide today I feel female, tomorrow I feel male, or I don't feel female or male, and so I am going to be they. And so there's there is a plurality in it. And I know the language is a little bit hard to grasp, but it makes sense to me now. Now, who you're physically attracted to, so that would be, are you homosexual? Are you heterosexual? Are you bisexual? That is your physical attraction, your sexual attraction. And then there's your emotional attraction, because there are people that are physically attracted to one gender. However, they end up emotionally attracted. They may, for example, a woman may want to marry a man and have an emotional attachment to them, but physically they are attracted to women and decide that sexually they're going to be with women. There's a fluidity to it. There really is. And whether there's more of it now or people are expressing it more than they used to, who knows? But the good news is that there is some language that we can now use to put ourselves in different, give ourselves different labels. And I will also qualify this entire presentation or this entire episode as what my interpretation, and I know there are so many more labels and people out there who are going to tell me I'm wrong about how I've interpreted this or offer me some more explanations, and I have heard some, and I think that's wonderful. I'm here to open your mind so that you can understand that it isn't cut and dry. And the last thing I'm going to do is just go through a few more labels that you might hear and try to explain them. The one that I hear a lot is queer. And queer seems to have become more of kind of a blanket term. And I would ask, if someone says they're queer, I would ask them, what does queer mean to you? Now, to me, queer means that you don't identify the way society thinks you should. In other words, I am not a man, I am not a woman, I'm not in a heterosexual relationship, I'm somewhere different, and so I'm queer. And that, I think, is where the term comes from, and it's kind of a little more generalized. That is how I understand it. Again, you may feel differently, you may think of queer as something else. So that, it's subject to interpretation. Homosexual is an orientation. So someone who's homosexual prefers someone of the same sex. And that typically refers to females being sexually oriented towards females and males being sexually oriented towards males. Bisexual typically means that you are oriented towards both males and females. However, if you put in the gender of a they, then are you bisexual if you are attracted to they type people? The words, however you identify yourself, is how you identify yourself. Now, asexual means that you are not sexually oriented towards anybody. Basically, you're not a sexual person. It doesn't mean that you don't have relationships. It doesn't mean that you are not able to love people, but you are not sexually attracted to anybody. Now I'm changing to gender. Intersex is somebody who does not physically, their gender is neither female or male. So they may have some physical combination of characteristics of both men and women in their body, in their DNA, and so they are not identified as female or not identified as male, or they have both genitalia. In that case, we would say that person is intersex. Transsexual is a gender identity. So like I said, I identify as a woman. A transsexual may be physically a woman, but decide that they identify as a man. They feel more like a man. Some people who are transsexual decide to change their gender physically by doing a gender reassignment surgery. Some people do a partial gender reassignment surgery. I've seen someone who is transsexual is a transsexual woman. That means that she was born as a male with a penis, now identifies as a transsexual woman, has had breast implants, but still has a penis. However, in the world, she considers herself a woman. However, she's transsexual because she still has a penis. Pansexual is a physical attraction. So someone who is pansexual does not care if you're a man or a woman or somewhere on the gender spectrum. They are attracted to you as a human. I am heterosexual. I am only attracted to men. If I were pansexual, I wouldn't care if you were a man, if you were a woman, or if you identified as somewhere in the middle. And finally, I'm going to talk about demisexual, because this one took me a little bit to get my arms around. Now, demisexual, also a physical attraction. Demisexual means that I will only be sexually attracted to you once I am in a relationship and I get to know you as a person. Whereas I am a cisgender woman attracted to men. I walk into a room full of people and I see some really good looking men or some men that I just think are sexy as hell, and I am attracted to them. I am not attracted to the women or the other people, but there are a couple men in there and I am really sexually attracted to them. If I were demisexual, the fact that there were some really hot looking men in there, I wouldn't be attracted to them because I don't know them. I don't have any relationship with them. If I met one of the humans in there and I got to know them and we became romantic, then I would develop a sexual attraction to them. And so that is what demisexual refers to. I hope this has given you a little bit of a better understanding. It is literally the tip of the iceberg. There is so much around language and labeling that we all need to learn. I hope that I've opened your mind a little bit and perhaps taught you a thing or two that you didn't know to help you understand humanity a little better.